Hey everybody, welcome back to Shoe and Show. This is the Footwear Leadership Series powered by OrthoLite. In this special series, we sit down with top executives from the biggest footwear brands to explore their leadership philosophies, culture shaping organizations, their shoe stories, etc. But it's really about a behind-the-scenes look at how companies are run and operated by folks at the top. A big thanks to OrthoLite for making this series possible. As a trusted partner to over 550 leading footwear brands, which is a lot, OrthoLite continues to elevate comfort and performance across the industry. So, Matt, as we start to think about leadership, sometimes people say leadership, requires expertise. And I think our guest today has a lot of expertise. There's a song, I believe it goes something like, I started from the bottom, now I'm here. And I think that's a good way to describe what our guest's journey has been. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get into it, Andy, because for me, as an adolescent, there was this iconic moment with this brand that most of you and our viewers will remember. And that was Dee Brown in the dunk contest with none other than Reebok pumps. And so on today's show, we have Todd Krinsky, who is the president and CEO of Reebok. And Todd, as you come into Shoe and Show and kind of break some bread with us, the cool thing about your shoe story and your journey is that you've been at Reebok nearly 33 years. So welcome to Shoe and Show. And let's just talk about the last 33 years. What have you been up to?
Thanks, Matt. Andy, great to be here. It's funny. I mean, I have been here 33 years, but my career actually started when I was 16 at Foot Locker. And I think that's where I kind of fell in love with the business, was the retail floor, the shoe wall, and the environment of, interacting with customers and selling. That's how my whole kind of world started. That kind of experience back when I was younger is kind of what's driven a lot of how I look at the business today. It's all about retail, and it's all about the customer and the shoe wall and the experience of selling. And I try to really drive that with the teams today, making sure we're always very consumer focused. But yeah, the 33 years has been amazing. I mean, a lot of people know my story, but I actually, while I was working at Foot Locker, I was able to kind of work my way into Reebok in the mailroom. And I delivered mail for about 14 months, which wasn't really well received by my family after a college education. But I had a passion for the business, and I stuck with it. And yeah, so this is back in the day, though, Matt. This is back when you had an actual people were getting mail.
Right? Do you have that cart you're pushing around?
I had a cart. Andy referenced the pop culture Drake song of "Start from the Bottom," but there was also a movie, Secret of My Success, with Michael J. Fox, that people reference with me sometimes, which is very similar, And so basically, I knew I couldn't be in the mailroom forever financially. And so what I was doing was I was taking the mail, and instead of putting it in all the executives' mail slots, I was delivering it to their offices, and I was introducing myself, and I was networking because time was tight. And I got a little reprimanded by that from the mailroom manager, who said, "That's not how we do things. We put things in boxes and we keep moving." And then I graduated to a second idea, which was I put a coupon in every executive's mailbox that said I would work for free for 30 days, try me out, give me a real job. And although they couldn't really take me up on that, it did raise some awareness of me, and I networked, and I eventually ended up getting an associate development manager job. So I was working on the engineering side of building footwear. And that was my first gig, and I did that for a few years. So it was interesting because I was actually making shoes during the day and then working at Foot Locker and selling at night. It was an interesting kind of dynamic. And again, had great passion and love for the business at an early age. And then I got tapped on the shoulder, and I was young and single, and was like, "Hey, would you move to Busan, Korea?" Which at the time was still one of the major, sourcing parts of the world for footwear, and where some of the greatest shoe manufacturers are and talent is. And I moved to Busan and lived there for 3 years and just really learned the sourcing and the craftsmanship as footwear. And then came back, and then I was kind of on a fast track from there because I understood shoemaking a little bit. I understood. I grew up basically DJing and playing basketball were my two passions. So I kind of had this cultural connection a little bit. I was collecting sneakers at a young age, and I had retail experience from, Foot Locker. So I kind of from there had a lot of the elements of being successful in the business. And then I did some stints, and I moved to product marketing. So I'm on the management side of the business. So I was learning the kind of metric as a business, and I did, basketball and classics and all of that stuff. and had a great run growing businesses with Reebok there on the management side. And then I had moved into sports marketing for a while, where I took a break from product and I was negotiating the deals for the company. So I was able to do, NFL deals and NBA deals and things like that. And then kind of moved on to bigger product roles and then took over the brand a few years ago. So I've been up to a lot, but it's been an amazing, amazing run. And I think, one of the things about this company is it's just very entrepreneurial in spirit. And I think that's why I've been able to stay here for such a long period of time, because it's just a unique company and a unique organization.
I mean, if you were to take a robot and create the perfect CEO for a sneaker company or Frankenstein, and like that was it, man. Like you were all the pieces and parts of marketing, product, hustling, culture, music, like jammed into one dude. That's you, Todd. I mean, that's just kind of what I take away from your shoe story.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it allowed me to, be successful in the roles that I had, because part of the business is analytics, but part of the business is gut, just being close to the consumer, taking risks, calculated risks. And I learned a lot of that from Paul Fireman. I mean, he was one of the great entrepreneurs who really taught me about risk taking and taught me the art of the deal and get the deal and figure it out later and try everything. Some's going to work, some's not. Get yourself back up and keep moving like that. That kind of my kind of background, as you said, Matt, my experiences mixed with kind of this entrepreneurial feel and learning from people like Paul has allowed me to kind of, be successful over the years. It's all those kind of elements together.
What do you say to folks who are entering the footwear industry, who are working that Foot Locker job or who are working at the mailroom job, who want to do exactly what you did? Like, what does it take? I mean, it sounds like it took a lot of grit and determination, breaking a little bit of rules to be seen. But it also sounds like you were willing to jump in and do the hard work when you had your opportunity. But what do you say to folks who are new to the industry or trying to break through to the industry? What are some key ideas that you think will really help them stand out and succeed in footwear?
Yeah, I think, Andy, the biggest thing is just like to look at your career kind of like the zigzag like this versus straight line. I think a lot like every single element of the footwear business is connected, whether it's finance to sourcing to marketing to product building. Like you can go into any of those areas and then use that experience to go to the next space. I think a lot of younger people come in and they say, "Oh, I want to do sports marketing. I want to work with athletes." I think I said that in '92. No one even knows what that means. But it's like, I got a graduate. I like sneakers. I like sports, and I have a marketing degree. But like the reality of kind of this industry is that I've always said, and everyone says this, is product is king. You can do a lot of roles, but in the end, the kind of heartbeat and epicenter of this industry is the product that we make and the consumers we think about. This is the most important thing. But you don't have to start there. You can start in sourcing and learn how to make shoes. You can start in finance. You can be in merchandising. You can be in sales for a period of time. But I think all of those experiences, you just have to be open-minded. When I got tapped on the shoulder to go to Busan, I'd been to Boston, Florida, and my family's from Toronto. That was it. I didn't even know where Busan was on the map. But the reality is, enough people told me about, this is your MBA. 3 years in Busan is your MBA. Yeah. And sure. I think I was open-minded enough at the time to take that opportunity. Whereas if I had said, "Oh, sports marketing," I would have stayed in the United States. I would have grinded with everybody else to that one job, But when I came back from Asia, I was 2 steps above my peers. And I think, to your question, Andy, it's about the grit. It's about the determination. It's about saying yes to everything. It's also just about really seeing where you want to go and understanding it's not a straight line. And I think for younger kids today, it's a little harder to register. I think they think, okay, I do this job, then I do this job. And that's not the way not the way our industry is. I think it's still very young. I think it's still very entrepreneurial. And I think just being open to opportunities and seeing, okay, if I do this for a period of time, what do I put in my tool belt that I can go to the next level? And that's something I always did, try to be open to opportunities.
Tell me how you said at the start, like, I feel like more than ever today, and it's not just in footwear, it's just in life, like we have data at our fingertips more than we even know what to do with and make sense of. And so obviously today, footwear companies can get real-time insights into sales that are happening and like feedback, et cetera. How do you balance that information flow? Like, I can imagine you working at retail makes you maybe go to stores and look around and talk to people a lot, just as much as looking at the data, but also probably trusting your teams. But what is the interplay? How do you find the wisdom in all the data and the wisdom of the market, knowing that it's imperfect, but how do you figure out like where you're going to track and head?
Well, I think there's a few things. I mean, there's absolutely more data than ever before. But I don't think the data tells the whole story. And I think that's why, the data will tell you what consumers are buying, but they don't always tell you why they're buying it, how they're wearing it, why they chose that versus this. That's the science behind the consumer behavior that really requires you to kind of be out there talking to people. I think sometimes you get these anecdotal gems when you just are out talking to customers, and my family to this day, even in the role I'm in, they think I'm crazy because we'll be in a mall and I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I just start talking to some 16-year-old kid. My wife's like, oh my God, like, here we go again. Like, you were doing this in 98 and you're still doing it. But I think there is this idea around the data and understanding what consumers are gravitating towards. But we have a lot of that, and we look at that and we assess why people are doing what they're doing. But it also comes with kind of a lot of this anecdotal. I also think the other part of it, though, is like most of the data is what's happening today, and we're in a futures business. So it is great that we can go to a customer and a buyer can say, listen, you sold X amount last month, you're selling this month, Crocs has gone up this much, this looks going down. Like, all of that is great because you can kind of see where consumers are going. But I just came out of a meeting for Spring Summer 27 last week. So it's kind of like, you got to balance what's happening today and how many moves you make based off the data today versus a futures business. And so that requires a different type of analysis. That requires teams to be in these small pockets around the world that we think are creating the next trend. These consumers that we feel are taking the next risk. And we know where some of these pockets are in the world. It's in pockets in Europe. It's really pockets in Europe and pockets in parts of Asia where you can start to see what's next. And so you have to have one eye on what's happening today. And you can make some tweaks and shifts to affect what kids are doing today or what consumers are gravitating to, based off of price or color or crashing things in. But really, I think what we stress here is, and we do it well sometimes, and we miss trends all the time, But what we're trying to do is make sure our teams are out in some of these areas where we see the next thing happening. And sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't, right? Like, so interestingly enough, today, this female consumer is really on this kind of terrace soccer inspired look. There's Samba everywhere. They're doing really well. Everybody said, oh, well, that's going to be dead by the spring of 2025. And 70s running is coming in like crazy. And so everyone ran to 70s running. We all have 70s running. It's all on the wall right now, but no one's buying it. It just didn't happen, even though that's where kind of the look was moving towards. So it's not an exact science. It comes from gut, risk-taking, looking at what you think is happening, your experiences, and then we kind of assess. And so we feel we have a pretty good eye on what's happening in 27 because we've talked to all of our people and done a lot of our due diligence. And we're taking a few swings right now from a creation perspective on 27. But listen, at the end of the day, it's a mix of what's happening today. It's a mix of talking to consumers. And then it's really trying to have a focus on what you're seeing or feeling is going to come down the road.
That's got to be really difficult in a lot of ways, because I have to be honest with you, Todd, like, I'm a nostalgia guy. So like the old school stuff really checks my box. I'm pushing 50 years old. I mentioned the D Brown story. The pumps are a part of my childhood. Of several pairs have been dropped over the last few years of Jurassic Park collab, et cetera. And so that's where I would be leaning towards. So how often do you have to like check yourself and say, you know what, these are some of my babies, but the team's telling me we're going this direction. I may not be seeing it right now. How much trust is with your team as it relates to trend and figuring out what's going to sell and what's not?
Well, I think one thing that we've learned through trial and error, and I think this is where I feel the industry is going right now, and has been going for the last few years, and I think this is also how retailers are starting to buy, is that brands have to play into their strengths more. So you can't run and chase every trend. So if you are Vans, for example, it's going to be really hard to, if chunky running is hot, it's going to be really hard to chase that. And Vans may be a bad example because they do stay in their lane more, but there are a lot of brands that try to create everything, and if you're known for 2000s running and 2000s running is hot, the chances are consumers are going to go to the brand that they think is the most credible in that space, so maybe it's going to be Asics and New Balance more than the Nike or Adidas, and that's what's happening now. And so I think like you have to, brands can only make so many products, and it's going this way, not this way, right? Brands are making less products, offering less articles, and everyone's trying to go more narrow and deep. And if you subscribe to that philosophy, then you have to lean into things where you have equity. And so to your point, Matt, where we have a lot of equity is our classics business, our retro basketball business, our training business. And so that's where we are focusing most of our energy right now, is really trying to double down on where we have equity and chase things less. So even when I gave you the example earlier to you about, finding these little small trends that are happening, even when we see what those trends are, we're trying to adopt those trends through our lens. So will buy from us, and we're not trying to be something we're not. The other side of it, though, is you do have to make that shoe you were holding relevant to a whole new generation, right? Right. I mean, no one's going to remember D Brown. His daughter she's been in the league 8 years. His daughter is probably too old for this consumer that we're talking about, and that's his daughter, right? So that's how old we are these days. So but we do know through the research that consumers, young consumers, value credibility and authenticity. We know that through all the data. But it's how do you tell the story in a cool, relevant way? That's why you had mentioned Jurassic Park. Sometimes it takes cool nostalgia like Pump, and then something culturally relevant that they're collaboration, and then the end product. Sometimes you need that triad to get the consumer to be interested, because they don't remember the back in the days, They know Shaq as a TNT analyst, not as a 21-year-old.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, right? We have big personalities. You have Shaquille O'Neal. You have the original AI. When I hear AI, I don't think artificial intelligence in my house, right? So you have Allen Iverson. Talk to us about running a business and working with such big personalities that are anchored into that nostalgia period and still making them relevant today.
Well, there's two ways we use them. First of all, Allen and it's interesting, right? I think you guys may know this, but we were a big, vibrant sports brand, and Adidas acquired us, and Adidas basically took us out of sport and repositioned us into fitness. And so we had a really tough time. It was a dark, dark period for a lot of us because we weren't really driving our classics, which is our equity, and we weren't in sport anymore. We were a fitness brand. And now that we've been acquired by Authentic and we're getting back into sport, we're starting to re-enter basketball and now golf and global football. But these things take time, and you have to figure out. It's a more crowded area than we were doing it before, where there were 3 or 4 players. Now the cost of entry into footwear is less. There's more capital, and so now you've just got more sports brands to compete. And so one of the things we did with Allen and Shaq is, they were lifetime guys with us. I personally have great relationships with both of them. We said, hey, we're going to get back into basketball. What if you guys serve as president and vice president of this thing we're doing and recruit players and strategize with us? And it's been unbelievable. Obviously, we got a lot of great PR out of it, but they've been really, really working with us. And a shameless plug, June 3rd, Netflix is launching a 6-episode series about our re-entry into basketball. So
the timing of this drop is perfect. It literally starts
day before the NBA Finals. We launched 6 episodes, and it's all about our journey back into basketball. So we're working with them to be kind of like strategists and to recruit players. I will tell you that Shaq is literally on a FaceTime with me once every 3 or 4 weeks with a young kid and his family. He is all about it. Allen's visiting kids, and so they're recruiting. They're working with us on kind of the imaging of what we do in basketball. So that's been great. And then they do still have a retro business with us. Allen, we still do a good retro business, even though a lot of kids don't remember him like we do. YouTube is a great resource for us. When I do focus groups and I'm like, kid's 17 years old and wasn't even born when Allen was playing, I say, well, how do you know? And he goes, well, I watch YouTube, and he was the king of the crossover. And so they do know him. So we're not going to do millions of pairs, but it's still, we could do nice nostalgic storytelling drops. So AI and Shaq are a big part of our company. They're not a big as part of our business as they used to be, but we still have a lot of fun with them.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So what I've got so far is I've got, in my mind, 2 Michael J. Fox references. I've got Secret of My Success and Back to the Future, where we are already looking at 2027 product seems kind of crazy. If we can work in Teen Wolf, I think this would be the perfect podcast. I'm not sure that we can. It's a stretch. It's a little
I
stretch.
could really be wrong here. I could absolutely be wrong, but for some reason, I think that in Teen Wolf he wore pumps, but I don't know.
It's basketball reference. We're talking about basketball,
Could have been.
I'll claim it. I'm gonna check it off.
Three.
A 3 right there. That's a 3 feet. Todd, I have a question for you about like leading teams in this kind of crazy environment. Not, we talked a little about consumers. We know tariff issues are big, operations are shifting. What's your leadership style in terms of communication? I'm a big believer in like communication's key to almost everything, right? Alignment, and like make sure people know what the vision is and focus. Are you someone that will go down to the mailroom and talk to folks? Are you someone who is so busy that you distribute information through the C-suite and it filters down? How do you engage with the employees at Reebok in the US, at retail, at overseas? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think because of the way I came up in the industry, I'm very passionate about product and marketing and very comfortable with, almost every facet of the business. So I try my best to be in the mix, to learn, to listen. I think that it's a young industry, so the more I can be around young people and hear from them, the more energized I am to be here. Sometimes when I walk in a product room, they'll be like, "Oh man, please no," because the range is done. Todd, the range is done. We appreciate you being here, but the range is complete for the season. Thank you. So I try to be involved in some of the prototype meetings and things like that, so I can have some influence, but I don't get involved the way I used to. But yeah, listen, we're a small organization today. I'm trying best I can to get everybody in the office more. Some younger people value it, some don't. I fundamentally think that the only reason I'm successful as I am today is because I was learning every day. I was asking questions every day. I was understanding the culture. I quite frankly don't understand how a 24-year-old young person can understand what the hell is going on if they're in their living room 4 days a week and come in once. So I'm driving to get people here more because there's just so much more value in that. So yeah, I think communication is key, and I think I try to be present as much as I can and talk to folks. Even just some of the most powerful conversations are just walking into a room and saying, "What'd you guys talk about today?" I think from a higher end C-suite down, my philosophy is really just to really be sharp with the vision, be sharp with what we're trying to do, and I think we always say here consistency is kind of not to replace newness. It's just you have to be consistent. We have to say things over and over again. And so I try to, or consistency is not the enemy of newness is kind of what we say. But I try to create the vision of what we're doing. And then I really believe that if you have talented people, you have to kind of let them go. And I do believe a lot in autonomy. I'm not, even though I've been in the business a long time, at this company a long time, I'm really not trying to drive people and tell them what to do. I try to set what we're trying to achieve as a brand. What is our vision? Who are we? And I try to be the reminder of that. But I try to have senior team members, chief product officer, CMO, that are talented people that just go with their teams. And as long as the vision is clear up here, I try to get out of the way and then problem solve as we go. To be honest with you, the last few years of me being a CEO have really been unfortunately, about transition. So I haven't spent as much time on product and marketing and what really my passion is. I spent a lot of time traveling around the world and helping to bring on new operating partners because we got a very unique model. I've spent a lot of time on transitioning this business out from under Adidas. At one point, we were managing over 37 TSAs, which is kind of, trying to transition from a big company like Adidas into a new entity. So it's been a lot of operational and trying to set this company up as a standalone. I hope that 26 for me is a year where I can spend more on brand building and consumer again and marketing. But I'm spending a lot of my time trying to set the company up so that we can kind of be more standalone.
Building the foundation. I think it's interesting what you said, because I think in this Zoom world or whatever it is, you can be very productive on Zoom, but there's nothing like being able to walk around the corner into somebody's office, knock on the door, and just start peppering someone with questions as you're young, trying to figure things out and work through.
Yeah.
What you should be working on or thinking about, just being in the midst.
You know what I do? You know what I do now? I actually, in my head, I am actually compiling all the decisions or ideas that have come out of non-meetings. So either what we talked about before a meeting started, or we're leaving and walking out together, or bumping into someone before they go grab lunch or go work out. I'm telling you that over the last 3 or 4 months, there's probably been like 4 or 5 ideas that have come out of not us setting up a brainstorming session or not doing this. You're just around people, and it's just the energy is there. And, hey, I didn't mention this in the meeting, but, what if we let's do that, And so I think I'm trying to create even more examples for people so that you see the value in presence and collaboration, It's hard.
Well, and I think you have longevity, Todd, right? Like, it's so rare. The athletic space in our business is so hyper competitive. There's so much turnover and churn. The fact that they've wanted to keep you around for 33, 34 years is a testament to you and the way in which you've navigated this business. So kudos to you, because I think longevity is not always a guarantee, particularly in the athletic footwear space.
I think one of the things I would say is the secret to the sauce. And it's interesting. You can go online and you hear all of these wealthy people giving their opinions on passion means a lot or passion means nothing. I hear some of these guys that I actually respect say, no, you work hard, you make the money, then you can be passionate. Passion's got nothing to do with it. And other people say, no, it all emanates from your passion. And I do believe that. Like, I believe my run here and my success here does all start with the fact that I always put the brand first. I have a tremendous passion on us getting to the top of the hill again. And I think if you are investing in Reebok and you're making the decisions up top, I think you want somebody like that, somebody that's living and breathing the brand, somebody that has this is not a business. This is a family business for me. I can't sometimes separate Reebok from my personal life. It's just who I am, for better or for worse. But I think that allows me to be on 24/7 and really just be trying to drive what's best for the brand. And I think that's something that has, kept me kind of attractive, I guess you could say, maybe to the people that are calling the shots,
That's cool.
That's awesome. All right, so now it's time for some footwear fun. Big thank you again to OrthoLite for sponsoring these great conversations, bringing leaders together, kind of share what's happening behind the scenes, share their stories, share what's happening culturally. And again, we're doing this series specifically because in an age of disruption, when you're trying to figure your way through things, nothing matters more than having an ethos and a culture and a baseline to work from internally to be agile and to have growth and be successful. But OrthoLite, again, partners with over 550 brands worldwide, elevating comfort performance with every single step. You can learn more about OrthoLite at ortholite.com. Matt, for this series, I think you said last shoe standing.
Last shoe standing, Todd. So as one of the top executives in the sneaker industry, as deemed by Footwear News, you're the perfect guy to ask. So picture this. The zombie apocalypse has started. Walking Dead are coming into Boston proper, and you got to grab one pair of shoes, and it'll be the last pair of shoes you ever wear or sport in your life. What pair of shoes are you grabbing last shoe standing?
Well, for me, it's easily the Question Mid. It's rated as one of the top 25 basketball shoes in the history of our game. And for me personally, this is an amazing idea of an entrepreneurial story, because I was basically just a product manager at the time, and I was obsessed with Allen Iverson, and I was involved with a team that really campaigned for Paul Fireman to sign Allen Iverson. And this was in 1995. And I'll get to the shoe very quickly, but Paul at one point in the boardroom said, "Listen, the money's getting too high. There'll be another Allen Iverson." And a couple of us said, "There'll never be another Allen Iverson." We went into this whole thing about why, and we ended up signing him. And then I wasn't even working in the basketball business at the time, but I went off campus with another partner of mine in marketing and a designer, and we had literally, and I'll never forget it, but this is before the internet era. So basically, we cut out our images from USA Today, which is a big. This is going to really date this podcast, and I apologize.
Arts and crafts.
But it was arts and crafts. We had USA Today and Sports Illustrated, articles, and we were trying to explain to this designer who didn't know who Allen Iverson, who he was. And then 6 months later, I'm in David Fox's office in Washington, D.C., showing a prototype to Allen Iverson 6 months later. And so for me, this is a childhood dream, man. I was selling shoes at 16, and Allen,
Wow.
And the shoe always had such special place in my heart. It took a lot to get to the shoe to where it was. It won Rookie of the Year. You know, at the time, Foot Locker was telling us, he's an East Coast guard. He's too small. The shoe is big. We'll buy a couple thousand pairs. And I'll never forget the first day it sold. We went to Philadelphia. We went into the Galleria Mall. We walked around, and the shoe was sold out before we even finished walking the mall. So to me, if we did get to that dire position in civilization, I would be saying it's the Question Mid, because I think it's one of the most iconic looks in the market. It's still timeless today, and I have a personal kind of connection of how it was created.
Well, you can also cross over the zombie, right? Like you need to get out of the way if you need to, and just get out. So.
Well, and in defense of Allen, you know, he's a Virginia boy, and he went to Georgetown in DC, as you mentioned. Everyone replicates his game now. I was watching the Nick Pacers game last night, and Brunson's the star, and it's very reminiscent of Allen. Yep. So he was a trendsetter. Definitely. For sure.
That's awesome. Todd, thank you for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your journey and some of your leadership philosophies and kind of the keys. I think a lot of people out there can learn, but also I think there's, you know, in these conversations we have with folks, there's a lot of similarities that people have. And I think that's even powerful too, to say, okay, like these are the things that make successful people and successful brands. So we appreciate you coming on today to share a little bit about
Absolutely.
that.
Appreciate you guys. I mean, I always say this, it's still, I feel like a young, very entrepreneur industry. And I think it's an industry that a lot of young people don't know all of the different job opportunities and career opportunities in this industry. I think people think maybe someone just designs the sneakers and you go, but there's business management, product development, engineering, you know,
legal, tariffs, sourcing,
mailroom.
So, and by the way, and thank you for joining our board. Shout out to you for being a new member of our board. We're very excited that you are willing to join.
It was great. Yeah, and I had a great time learning more about everything you guys do when we were in DC last month. So I look to learning more as we go. And great to do this, because anytime I can promote the industry and get more young talent in the business, I'm all for it. So
awesome. Well, folks, shoeandshow.com is the general website for our podcast. It's been going on for 10 years. ShoeLeaders.com is this new series where you can go and specifically listen to leaders across our industry share a little bit about their journeys and their philosophies. And again, it's ShoeLeaders.com where you can find this new leadership series, help powered by OrthoLite. We appreciate their support. And as always, thank you for listening. New episodes drop every single Monday. And until next time, Shoein is out.